Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming His Excellency Dr. Jibril Ibrahim, Minister of Finance and Economic Planning of the Republic of Sudan, and Ms. Nawal Agmakhafi, a Senior International Investigations Correspondent at BBC News, to the stage for a high-level fireside chat.
Fantastic. What can I say? Welcome. It is absolutely great to have you here on the stage with us, Your Excellency, Dr. Jibril Ibrahim. Like Richard, I've just come from the ground as well. I was in Ukraine, a conflict that is getting so much attention, and rightfully so. It is a devastating conflict. But a few months ago, I was in Sudan, and in contrast, it is a conflict that's getting very little attention, even though it's equally devastating. I mean, the humanitarian situation there is dire, just the destruction. I went to Chad, where I met thousands of Sudanese who can't go back home because of what's happening there. Can you give us an update of what's happening on the ground?
Thank you very much. In terms of magnitude and figures, the Sudan's crisis is the biggest humanitarian crisis in the world right now. Over 12 million people has been displaced forcefully within the country, and over 2 million people has been displaced, forced to take refuge in neighboring countries. So the situation, as you correctly said, is really there. But unfortunately, this is a forgotten war and a forgotten crisis. Few will pay some attention to it. Luckily, possibly because, well, there are other wars, like the one in Gaza and the one in Ukraine, that overshadowed the whole thing and what's going in Sudan. The humanitarian crisis is serious. The UN Security Council made a resolution 2736 long time ago, asking the RSF to lift the siege on Al-Fashir. But unfortunately, that siege continues. And nobody actually bothered to follow up with the resolution. So people are starving now in Darfur, in Al-Fashir in particular, and the RSF is not allowing access for UN agencies to reach the people there. That's one of the biggest crises. Now there's influx of refugees as well as IDPs to return to the liberated areas in Sinnar and Jazeera and Khartoum. And that is, again, we need to handle it with special care because we want people to return to safe places.
But what are they coming back to?
Well, of course.
Paint us a picture of what it looks like for someone who's been in Chad for years now, displaced, hasn't seen their home in, let's say, a place like Khartoum. What are they coming back to? What is the level of destruction?
Actually, those who are returning are not those who are in Chad, rather those who took refuge in Egypt, in other neighboring countries, like those who went to Uganda. Life for refugees is not that easy. And since now they can return to their own homes, they find their dignity in going back home, definitely. And they're rushing back. The only thing is we want to make sure that they are returning to safe places, places where there are no corpses, there are no unexploded ordnance that can create hazards for children. And we want to make sure that the public services are in place because the infrastructure has been completely destroyed. We want to make sure that potable water is there, that sewage is working, and that there is electricity for people to come home. And these are now big headaches we are trying to fix. For the returnees, They may not find their homes. Well, most likely they need something to eat from the next day. And then for them to go to their farms, to start their business, they need to be supported to resume their normal life. So those are big headaches. And unfortunately, they are getting very little assistance from the world.
Do you have an idea of what it will cost to rebuild, to be able to provide those sorts of basic services for the people, to be able to rebuild their homes, basic, the institutions? Do you have a number yet? And how do you plan to fund this?
Well, actually, this needs specialized parties to do the assessment of the loss and damage as a result of the war. We asked the World Bank, the UN, as well as African Development Bank to send a mission, assessment mission. Usually missions wait for peace to come, then they come later on. So we are waiting for them to come to do a bankable assessment that we can then build on it and work on it as well.
In the areas that you've liberated, what are your priorities?
As I earlier said, we want to make sure that life is returning to normal, public services are there, people are returning to safe places, and then people can resume their normal life and go for production, because the only way out of all this mess is for people to start producing. Most of them are farmers. More than 75% of the Sudanese depend on farming. So we want to make sure that they have the agricultural inputs that will help them start producing, and in 3 or 4 months' time, they will depend on themselves completely. So for us, we would like to make sure that they have the public services, they have the inputs for our production.
There are so many players regionally and internationally that are vying for control. How do you make sure that you maintain control of these areas that you've recaptured?
Well, if we go a little bit back, for us, a tactic for counterintelligence, counterinsurgency, the previous regime resorted to hiring guns. And unfortunately, then those guns went out of control and they became the RSF. So my advice is for all states is to be very careful about how you go for counterinsurgents, what tools you use, what tactics do you use, so that they should not backfire later on. That's very important. For an army completely supported by the population, it's not easy to defeat such an army. Luckily in Sudan now, the whole community have rallied behind the armed forces. And since you are relying on your own people, and they are the ones who are supporting the army, it will be very difficult, and the ground will be really hostile for the RSF to come back. So there is very little chance for them to be back in the liberated areas. They are going to lose the remaining parts of it.
How?
Well, either they choose to seize through